There we go. So, and I am going to start us all off by asking, have you tried any of the practices in the first two classes? Either the visual stuff or the stuff we did last week with centering, prayer, and meditation? Has anything stuck, if you know what I mean? Because I know I throw everything against the wall and I see what sticks. So has anything stuck for you?
One thing that stuck with me was your little kindness blessing. Is that what you call it? The kindness?
Oh, the loving kindness meditation?
Yeah,
The metta?
yes. And I've shared that with quite a few friends. And somehow I just like it. Yeah.
I like that practice too.
Well, I've practiced breathing in many, many situations, and I've been grateful to be reminded. I used to do this all the time for just to relieve stress and lower my blood pressure, but it has come in. It's come back to me how important that is.
Yep.
Well, I have not, unfortunately, because I have not been feeling well. So I haven't done anything that we talked about because I've been feeling,
And like, you know what? That's absolutely okay. Because honestly, you put it in your life when there's room in your life for it. Because I know that although the journaling practice that I started 2 weeks ago.
Your bullet journal?
Yeah, my little bullet journal, it's going okay, but I'm looking at the other habits in the habit tracker. Like, did I meditate daily? Did I do this daily? No.
Well, Linda, I was going to echo what Linda said, because I have been meditating for about 20 years. So I've developed something that really works for me. But what I've found is that at odd moments during the day, if I need to step back and center myself, I can get back into that space pretty easily because I do it regularly every day. So it's there for me when I need it. But I think it's the regular practice that makes that possible. Yeah.
Yes. Everything I've read and heard has said, it's why they call it practicing the faith.
Exactly.
Hey, I'm a piano teacher. If you don't practice, you don't make any progress.
Right. I had, and I don't think anybody here does not know that I was Catholic growing up, but I remember a priest saying to us, you do the practice for the times when you need it. You're going to, you get into the habit, so the habit's there for you when things get rough. And I know that's been a very useful thought for me. Sometimes more useful in the, well, this is why I feel awful, than in the, well, here I am, I'm doing this perfectly part. But that's okay. And I think Robin is joining us. So I'm going to wait just a second for her to get on. And I'm also going to try to get so that you can see a little bit more of me. Hi, Robin.
Hi, Robin.
Okay, I'm here.
Good morning.
It took me a bit to get in.
What's that?
It took a bit to get in.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Be crazy. Because I know my camera works, as I was telling Linda, about once every third time my camera decides it wants to go to Puerto Rico.
Hello.
So I'm glad to see you.
Thank you.
All right. What I want to start with in our practices is a little bit of what they call chair yoga. I have got myself so that you can see me. You do not necessarily have to get so that I can see you. I promise that I will not be like judging your technique here. But the idea is yoga is actually supposed to be a preparation for meditation. It's supposed to get your body in a place where you're comfortable in it so that you can sit with a few less of those, oh, my shoulder's really bothering me, or, ooh, I'm not, So it's there. It helps me because otherwise I'll sit there and I'll worry about whether my body looks the way the model looks in the magazine or on the Zoom or on the YouTube. It's there to prep you for meditation. It's not there to make your body into something different. So we're going to do a little chair yoga. If anything feels uncomfortable, don't do it. Because I am not a licensed yogi and I do not want to hurt anyone. But these are usually considered pretty gentle stretches for people. So I'm going to invite you to bring your ear toward your shoulder on the one side. I will not say left and right because I'm in a mirror and it will just mess all of us up. And then slowly take your head down to your chest. And then over to the other shoulder. And up. Go back the other way. So that we're doing little half moons. You don't want to go all the way back with your head. That is not so great for your spine. So see if you can get a couple of half moons both ways. And then I'm going to invite you to roll your shoulders up and back a couple of times. And if you wish and you feel okay, big arm circles. Yes, if you have arms in your chair like I do, this will be a little awkward, but it does work. And then bring your shoulders up and forward. Other way. So you're bringing your hands forward. And then a few arm circles that way. This next thing is called the cat-cow. And what that means is that we're going to first round our backs forward and bring our hands to our knees if they were not already there. And then arch our backs the other way. Bring your hands to the back of your chair if you can. If not, just, think about the back of your chair. Back forward, hands to knees, and arch back. All right. This next thing is called a seated sun salutation. If you've ever been in a yoga class, you've probably done a sun salutation. This is a simpler version. You're going to bring your arms up over your head. And then as you bring your arms down, you're going to bring your whole body forward and rest on your legs for a second. To the extent that you can, bring your hands toward the floor. You're then going to put your hands on your knees. Come up and look at me. Whoops. Okay, while staying, sorry, not all the way up, but staying as far forward as you can, stretching forward. Go back down to the floor. And then come up all the way, hands up to the sky. And then bring the hands down to the chest. Some people do more than one sun salutation. We're just going to do one today. And then there's a couple of things we can do. Once again, a reminder, if this hurts, don't do it. This is called the seated pigeon. You're going to bring one foot up and rest it on, or rest your ankle on your knee. If you can, great. If you can't, that's okay too. And then you're going to bend forward as far as is comfortable for you. If it's here, that's fine. You can get your chest toward your leg, that's great. You should feel the stretch in your gluteus. Come back up This is called the seated eagle. I've got my knees now crossed completely. And I'm going to cross my elbows. One elbow on top of the other. If you can get all the way around and get your hands so that your fingers in your palm, that's great. If you can't, that's fine too. Resting one elbow in the crook of the other. All right, relax that. And we're going to finish this segment with a twist. The knee, whichever knee your toe is pointing out with, you're going to use that same side hand. And slowly bring yourself sideways. Grab the back of the chair if you can and look behind you. Okay, release that. We're going to do all those moves on the other side. And then I promise we're done. Ankle, other ankle to other knee. Leaning forward for the pigeon pose. This time I'm feeling it more in my lower back than my glute, but it's there. Come on up. Cross that leg completely. So you've got your knees crossed. And then if you can remember, put your other elbow in your other hand. Make sure you do it both ways. And then releasing that, bringing your hand across to your knee and looking behind. Okay. Come back, uncross your legs. One last big inhale up. And exhale down. Great. So I'm hoping that that felt restful, or at least like a good stretch, so that you feel like you're in your body. Because I find sometimes we live from here up, particularly as we're working, and we need to get fully grounded. If I get stressed out, I'm a kinesthetic enough person to know that when I'm frazzled, I need to go walk. I need to go walk around the block a couple of times, or at least walk around my house like a crazy person, pacing for a little bit until that stress hormone has worked its way through my system and I can focus again. Yeah.
What we did reminds me of what I do with, it's called core exercises, designed by a physical therapist for women, and it exercises you from your shoulders through your butt. And it involves a floor mat.
Yes.
It gets to the same kind of place of the twisting and the resistance exercises and stretching. And it has the same effect really as the chair yoga.
Yeah. Yoga does have that kind of dualistic nature to it, where it's hopefully building some muscle strength and creating some flexibility, as well as that spiritual grounding aspect. Some physical practices are called body prayer. It's really more about how you're moving and what you're thinking about than about getting a workout. The one that I've come across that's mentioned the most frequently was created by a religious order, the Order of St. Julian of Norwich. Now, if you know anything about her, you can guess that this is a contemplative order. St. Julian was a person who actually lived as I'm trying to remember what they called it, but a special kind of contemplative. She actually had herself walled in to a little house that stood beside the church. So she had a little window where she could watch worship, and she had another little window where she could get food and give spiritual counseling to people, but she was stuck. in that house for the rest of her life. Now, she lived through a plague, so I'm wondering if there wasn't a little bit of element of that too, where she was like, you know, I'm safe in here. But the Order of St. Julian is a contemplative order. They all live in houses and they do not need to go out in the world. They sell crafts and that's how they support themselves.
Who took
But
care
they-
of them? I've always wondered, who was it that brought them their food? I mean, they depended on the kindness of somebody.
Yeah, they depended on the people in the church or in the community.
Mhm.
And sometimes I think there was a little bit of, I will give you spiritual counseling, you will give me food, it will work out. But it was the resident wise person. There were also people who sat on a flagpole for God for a number of years. St. Simon Stylites is the one that I remember, and Stylites just means on a pole. But fortunately, these folk have figured out another way to get their food, because we don't spend a lot of time like walking up to monastery doors and shoving turkey dinners in. They sell things, so there's a store. But they've also developed this, what they call a body prayer. And it's 4 different postures that remind me a great deal of the sun salutation. And there's 4 words that go with it. So I invite you to do this with me. This is the posture for await. We wait on God to send us whatever prayer is coming today. And then you reach your arms up above your head for allow. We allow God's response to come in whatever way it comes today. Bring your hands to your heart for accept. We accept the gift that was given. And then the last one is attend. We attend to the world around us and are called to serve. Let's try doing that a couple of times. Await. Allow. Accept. Attend. Once more in silence.
I want to write down those 4 words.
Okay. And I promise that when I send you the resource connected to this class, there's a video attached to it from the order that gives you those 4 words and does the practice very much in the same way that I just did it with you. Another physical practice that is done more communally usually is that of liturgical dance. I promise I'm not making you dance today. This is a practice that I see in a lot of Black churches. And I think for the 175th anniversary, you all had a liturgical dance performed at that commemoration, which I wish I'd seen, but I was in the choir loft. And so there was no way to like look out and around and see it, but it looked like people were really appreciating it. But it's those same, it reminds me of very much modern dance kind of moves, Martha Graham kind of moves, applied to usually a gospel piece. I'm sending you a couple of examples of this. Liturgical dance can be done as a solo experience, but I see it most often because it's liturgical dance, it's in worship. And so it's usually done communally. And there are some really lovely groups out there. Another kind of body prayer that we talk about a lot is a walking prayer. Have any of you ever been able to walk a labyrinth, either in a church or outside?
We built
Rob-
one at our church.
Oh, okay. Robin, where was yours?
It was at First Church. One was set up years back in Fellowship Hall on the floor. It was like a big canvas thing. It
Yeah.
was a really moving experience for me.
They are amazing things. Some of them are outside. Some of them, like you said, are canvas ones that we bring in and spread out in a large space. Some churches, particularly old ones, there's a very famous one in Chartres Cathedral in France.
That's on my bucket list. I want to go there.
Oh, yeah. It's in the floor itself. It's like laid into the tile. There's also one at, well, it was at Pilgrim Hills. And now I believe it's been moved to Temple Hills. I know they moved the rocks. I'm not sure whether they've set it up yet or not. I'm hoping that they have set it up. But there's one at Common Ground on Baird Road. Unfortunately, you can't go to Baird Road and Common Ground right now because they're closed for COVID. There's also one at Christ United Church in Olmsted Falls that's outdoors. And as far as I know, you can be on their grounds. And if you go, say hi to Janice and Joel Montgomery, who are Neosom classmates of mine.
If you ever get to San Francisco, there's a wonderful one at Grace
There we go.
Episcopal, isn't it? But it's in downtown San Francisco. It's very noisy. All the noise of the city is around you. So it's an incredible experience to walk that labyrinth and meditate, even though there's so much noise.
And there's one at Ursuline College, Cleveland Heights. There's actually a website, and I will give you a link to it, called Labyrinth Locator. And you put in your zip code and it'll tell you anything that's within 100 miles of you. In fact, it may tell you everything that's in the same state. So your other option is to walk a virtual labyrinth. And I have given you a link to one of those where somebody's got a camera and they're walking it for you. And you get to, it actually, I was pleasantly surprised. It works surprisingly well. The idea is that you can use the labyrinth however you want. But the idea that's normally given to you is that you go to the labyrinth and you stand at the entrance with a question or a problem. And you work your way through the labyrinth to the center, thinking about that problem. You pause and accept whatever conclusion you've been able to come to as you've been walking. And then as you walk out, the idea is to try to let the problem go, to give the problem to God. If you are not traveling, and I respect that, there are also finger labyrinths. You do the same thing. You start at this beginning with your question, and then you trace around with your finger as you contemplate. And then eventually, I'm not going to pretend to even try to do this, you get to the center. And as you work your way out, you endeavor to let the problem go and let God do what God is going to do with that problem. There's two styles that I'm giving you. One is, this is the Chartres labyrinth. This is an older style, more of a medieval style.
From Crete.
Thank you. I am glad you know, because
That's the one we laid on our in our church with. We painted it actually on a floor because we didn't have room for the the bigger one.
Yeah, no, the big one that's a lot. Another possibility, if you're not near a labyrinth and the finger labyrinth is 2-finger and not enough full body experience for you, is to go on a nature walk with God, if you will. The idea is that you're intentional both about how you're walking and about opening yourself to whatever sensory experience is around you. What are you seeing? How are you sensing God's presence in that moment? We are going to actually do a virtual nature walk for a few minutes. Dale Preston was kind enough to share a video that he took of a nature walk he took in one of our local parks. So I'm going to take a second and get that queued up. Oh. I love it when I click on the wrong. Come on now. Thank you. All right. And let me see if I can share my screen with you. I apologize for not having this quite as queued up as I would have liked. So as you watch this, I'm going to ask you to engage your senses with this video. What do you see? What can you hear? There is music with this one, so there's quite a bit to hear. How does it engage you? Where do you see God in this video this morning? All right. Are you getting sound? No. Okay. Let me see.
Yes,
Any better?
yes. Maybe. I heard what I thought was birds, but I think we're supposed to be hearing music. I don't hear music.
Oh, you're not hearing music?
How can I get rid of our pictures? They're blocking the video.
You can click on the very top of the pictures and that will reduce them. There's a little slit that you'll see on that top.
Okay, I got it.
Okay. Whoops. Now I'm getting only, okay. Okay, I see. There we go. Is anybody else getting music?
No,
No.
I'm not getting music.
Okay, let me see what I can do. Yeah. I will stop sharing and see if I can get the settings to work. This is why I'm not in charge of the worship videos. Let me start this over again.
You're doing good, Jen. You're doing good.
You're doing fine, yeah.
Better this time?
There was music.
invite us to sit with this image for about half a minute. All right. So we're back. Is there anything anybody wants to share about that experience? Does it work as a virtual experience for you to go through? Is there anything that came up for you?
I had my moments of my mind wandering, and then I just very non-judgmentally brought it back, to the walk. Yeah, so.
Yeah, I think that's an important grab from meditation practice to use in this nature experience, is to bring yourself back to your senses. Bring yourself back to what you're seeing, what you're hearing on a regular basis, because otherwise, I admit, particularly for me, when I'm leading the class, I'm like, okay, about 30 more seconds, purple asters show up, and I've got about 20 minutes to make the prayer bridge. We're going to be fine. Yeah, all of that is going in my head. But it shouldn't be if I'm using this as a practice. I should be trying not to necessarily work out my schedule for the next several hours, but instead to be present in that moment. So thank you.
I love the pictures. I had to turn the sound off. As a musician, I did not like the music at all. I don't like electronic music.
Okay.
So that's a problem I have, that I am oversensitive to music. And so, but I like the nature part of it. I would have liked nature sounds more.
And there were nature sounds in with that, and it is kind of a new agey piano. Sometimes that works for people, sometimes it doesn't.
Some people love that. So it's not me.
Yep. Otherwise, 107.3 The Wave would never have been a thing. So, all right. Well, let me move on to our last practice, unless somebody else has something they want to say about the walk. I thank Dale for being willing to share the video with us. This is lovely. There's about 2 more minutes of it if you would like to experience it. You do get a link to it. Yay. But now I invite you to take out your little red bag and carefully remove the stuff from it. You will have either a charm. I think I ended up with an apple charm because I thought it would mail well and not get crushed, or a bell, for those of you I did not actually have to mail things to.
I got the bell.
Yeah. If you're in
I wondered
town,
if it was to keep me from losing myself or something.
No, not necessarily. It's just there to be at the end and something I can poke the string through easily.
Okay.
So whether you've got your apple or your bell, you'll have that charm for the end. You have 7 beads of one color, 2 beads of another color, and 1 bead of a third.
Right.
At least I'm hoping you do. You might have an extra in there, but I'm pretty sure I put the right number in pretty much everybody's. When you're done, it's gonna look like that.
Oh.
Charm, starting bead. These would normally be called the cruciform beads, but we won't worry about that. So,
Does it matter what order the colors are?
it does. You want those 7 all in the middle, and you've got 1 bead of one color and 2 beads to be on the ends of those 7. But I'm going to take you through it.
Oh,
So I invite you to take your yarn or your cord and double it up with the bell or the charm at the center-ish. And then find the bead where there's only one of that color. And if you can, poke both strands through that bead. I find that this floss actually holds up pretty well and allows me to do that. If it's too fussy, you might wrap some tape around the very end of those two strands and then poke the tape through.
Okay.
And that should trap your bell. Same idea. Find the bead that there's only two of. That's the next one. I would leave a little gap because you're going to want to play with this a little bit. It's meant to be a worrying sort of thing that you can move back and forth in your hands. So now you should have two beads of contrasting color. The next thing is those 7 beads that are all the same color. Mine are white.
Oh, come on.
And I apologize if it's being a little fussy. We are cannibalizing kits from previous years. I have no idea what these were meant to be, but we are using them to be prayer beads.
Wetting the end helps get it through.
Yes, wetting
Yeah.
the end, or like I said, and I'll show you what I would do if I was really having trouble, which is to take a piece of Scotch tape and wrap it around the beads. And then you can crush that end and thread it through. And then it has no choice but to work. It's a little fuzzy, I admit, but fortunately there's not that many beads. So now you have 1 bead of the first color, 1 bead of the second color, and 7 beads of the third.
Well,
Red bead's
almost.
hard to see, or something like that.
Well, I'm
That's where
getting
you're
there.
striving to be. I'm sure you're
getting there.
striving toward that. Once you've
One
got
more
your
to go.
7 beads on, there's only 1 bead left. At least I'm
Yep.
hoping.
Yeah.
Yep.
That goes last. And then if you put tape around your end, you cut it off. And you tie a knot so that it doesn't come loose.
Okay.
And then you've got this ring. This is for if you want to put it on a keychain.
Okay.
If you're that person, then you tie it to your keychain. And there, David's beads are made, so he doesn't have to make them.
Did you tie the knot down to the beads?
Yeah.
You can, it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
If you've got it down to the beads, that means you'll have a little less play, but you shouldn't need a ton of play. These beads tend to stick where they
Okay.
are.
Okay.
So normally the beads that I am doing with you would actually have 4 sets of these 7 beads divided by 4 of these little red ones, so that it would make a circle. And of course I don't have my old set with me, because that would have made sense. But it goes around and then ties off, and you've got the charm at the end. Kind of looks a little bit like a rosary if you've ever seen one of those. In fact, let me get you a picture. I will share briefly so that you can see what we would normally have it look like. I'm going to share my screen. Because it's a little easier to talk about if you're looking at the full set. So can you see that round,
I can't have
that
that.
circle here
Yeah.
at the bottom? So that's the idea, is that you're going to go in. You've got an invitatory bead. You've got 2 of these cruciform beads, and then your 7 little beads in between, which are called weeks. And there's a prayer for each different color of bead. I'm gonna throw the prayer that I normally use up. And this is one I wrote based on the writings of Teresa of Avila. I've tweaked it slightly, but it is still there. So the idea would be that we're going to, you start with that first bead. That's the invitatory bead. And for example, we would pray on this: may today there be peace within. May I trust God that I am exactly where I am meant to be. May I not forget the infinite possibilities that are born of faith. The next bead would be one of those cruciform beads, one of the 4 beads normally. Whoever has God lacks nothing. God alone suffices. And then you would pray 7 times on the white beads. May nothing disturb me. May nothing frighten me. All things are passing away. God never changes. That bead's done. I pray it on this bead 7 times as I go through those 7 beads. And then I get back to a cruciform bead. And I would pray, whoever has God lacks nothing. God alone suffices. Because I don't have a circle, you go back and forth 4 times.
Okay.
So you pray backwards. May nothing disturb me, may nothing frighten me. May nothing disturb me, may nothing frighten me. Okay, the whole prayer. And then you're back at the red bead. You go back up. You go back down. And then I actually have an exit prayer. It's the residual Catholic in me. Some of these prayers that I will send to you do not have an exit, a final prayer. Sometimes you just pray the Lord's Prayer at the end. But at the end, it would be, may I use those gifts that I have received and pass on the love that has been given to me. May I be content knowing that I am a child of God. May God's presence settle into my bones and allow my soul the freedom to sing, dance, praise, and love. The thing I've come to appreciate about this practice is that it's something to fiddle with. Sometimes I actually don't even pray the prayers on the beads. I will use it as a breathing practice so that each prayer is a breath instead. Because sometimes when you get through 28 times of saying, may nothing disturb me, may nothing frighten me, all things are passing, God alone, by the 28th time, you're done. You're done saying that. But if each one of those prayers is a breath, then that's a shorter practice. There are also versions, I will stop sharing my screen. There are also versions of the practice where I have a good friend who uses it with small ones. And so the 7 are, Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. Little ones to him belong. They are weak, but he is strong. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. The Bible tells me so. And then they use the red bead to pray for someone or something. That makes the practice easy enough for someone who's, not yet ready to read. even. You're just going back and forth and counting the prayers. It's
So I
also,
should have, I'm
you
sorry.
should have, no, go for it. What's up?
I should have a red, instead of having these 2 red beads down here, I should have one
Oh.
up here.
Yeah, there should be one up here.
Okay.
My bad.
I'll
Yeah,
finish it.
it's not
I'll
the
do it
center.
when we're done.
Okay. But yeah, and I just had mine fall off my ring. But that's the idea for the practice. And I find that it's a lot easier than the prayer bead practice I grew up with, which was the rosary. When you're praying the rosary, you're supposed to be saying these, well, it's 10 prayers in the middle while thinking about something else, while thinking about a story from Jesus's life. And I found that that was actually too much for my poor brain to do, to say 10 Hail Marys while thinking about the Annunciation and what my reaction to the Annunciation ought to be. Also, you're supposed to pray the whole rosary, which is 3 times around 5 sets of 10 beads. Yeah, 150 Hail Marys, which is a lot in a day. I was perhaps not particularly good, specifically as a young child, at doing 150 Hail Marys in a day. Although it was supposed to take, it just didn't.
What child would want to do that?
Yeah, I don't know any, if I polled 100 8-year-olds, I can't imagine any of them doing it. But it's a very well respected practice, and there are people who really get a lot out of it. And actually, one of the things that I can't imagine, I don't remember whether it was John Paul II or Pope Francis who added a 4th set of mysteries, which would mean you had to go around the rosary one more time to get all of the stories in. So that suddenly it's 200 Hail Marys in a day. And I'm like, oh no.
Oh gosh.
I don't think I could. This I find considerably more easy. This I find something that I do. And actually I've gotten to the point, this is really the spiritual practice that I vibe with. All I have to do is pick up my real set, which is made out of an old necklace of my mother-in-law's. And I'm more peaceful just for having picked it up. You may find eventually that you want to make one that isn't made out of plastic pony beads and feels good in the hand. But this one at least gets you the idea of the practice, and you'll be able to find it if you've got one of the ones with the bell. Anyway, we are at just about time. Are there any comments, any questions about anything we've talked about today?
I think this has been awesome.
Okay. Well, thank you for that.
Good leadership, good tips, good ideas
Yeah.
to ruminate and incorporate into daily living.
Yeah.
Shade the variety that you've given us. I've managed in 20 years to get rid of words. So it's taken a lot of trust in God to get to that point. Not to think that I have to, be the one doing the action. It's much more receiving and trusting that God knows what the prayers of my heart are. Sometimes I'll put an image of a person into the space I'm in with God. And I don't need any words, just the image of the person. Because I don't really know what's best for that person. I may think I do,
Right.
but God probably knows better. And so I leave it up to God.
Okay.
Really helpful.
Yeah, I am grateful for the class that I took through Neosam that was about spiritual practices, where the foundation of a lot of these things. It is where I learned this prayer bead practice, which is so much simpler than the one I grew up with. So I'm grateful to Anissa Glazer Bacon, who is out at New Vision in Canton, who led that class. Because she brought in a lot of interesting folks, including somebody who led us through like an improvisatory body prayer, which looked a lot like a liturgical dance by the end of it. That's a fun practice, but I couldn't imagine leading you through it on Zoom in chairs. So maybe some other time. All right, well, thank you all for tuning in. I will be sending the resource with all those links to you by the end of the day, certainly. Okay.
Thank you very much, Jen.
Yeah,
All
thank
right.
you.
You guys
Thanks
have a
to
great
all of you.
week.
Okay,
Thank
you
you.
too. Thank you.
Good
Thanks
to see
a
you
lot.
all.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.